Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us once again on this Dr. Fundi channel. My name is Fundi Lenyati. I'm the host on the channel. Today, being a Sunday, we are going to have the first of our Salute Sunday, segments. What we do on certain selected Sundays, we choose a person within healthcare or beyond the healthcare space, somebody who's doing great things in their area of interest, somebody who's making an impact in their chosen area. And today, we've chosen somebody from within the healthcare sector, somebody who is doing great things, as a health promoter, somebody who's doing great things as a health advocate, somebody who is actually trying to make sure that we try and demystify, the thing healthcare is boring. He has brought in very interesting ways of educating abantu about various things that have to do with e-healthcare. He is known ngabo abantu who follow him on Umhlobo Wenene, Kanya Kriyazana. He is known as somebody who talks about Impempe, Igusha, and other creative names, so that abantu siyekele nokusebenzisa these big words that sometimes go above abantu. As a result, abantu bephela, benga understand the message. He is very creative in his ability to communicate. And that person is none other than Dr. Mthembeni, Impempe, Tebelele. I've given him that nickname, Impempe, because, it has become his trade name. So Dr. Tebelele, Mthembeni. Mthembeni means the one to be trusted. And when you are in healthcare, it is important that, especially during this time of misinformation, during this time of disinformation, there is so much nonsense that is on our social media, channels, and we need trusted sources of information. And who better to give you, quality information than the person whose name actually starts with, Mthembeni, that is the trusted one. So Dr. Mthembeni Tebelele, a little bit about him. He is somebody who definitely defies the stereotype about medical doctors, that they are people who are really just focused on injections and needles, and there's nothing more that they know and can do besides that. Now, this is a gentleman who is a qualified medical doctor who obtained his MPCHB degree at University of Transkei Medical School, now called Walter Sisulu University. He graduated in 1997. That's about 21 years ago. So he's been a medical doctor, not 21, 24 years ago. So this is the 24th year of him as a medical doctor. He did his internship at the PE Hospital Complex and his community service at Frontier Hospital. All right. And worked as an MO for a number of years. He went back to study at Manchester Business School, where he obtained, Management Advanced Program Certificate. And also he went back again to University of Liverpool, where he obtained an MBA in leadership. He also went back to study again in Blackford Institute, where he obtained a diploma in life coaching. So this is somebody who does not have a problem with burning the midnight oil, as you've just heard, and I'm sure he has not, that's not the end of his studies. Now, besides him being a medical doctor running his own practice in Port Elizabeth, where he focuses on issues of primary health, focusing on issues of reproductive health, male, female, issues of non-communicable diseases, and many other, areas of primary health care. He still has time to be a content producer and actually appears on Kanya Griyazana, a program that, is driven by igala elaliligala lam eSt John's College eMthatha, uSisithoza Mangongolo, so he works with uSisithoza Mangongolo on Kanya Griyazana. That's on radio Mhlobo Wenene, one of the radio stations in South Africa that's got millions and millions of followers, and he has millions of followers with Dr. Tebelele. But also he is featuring when it comes to TV, because he's got a program on Umakapa TV called Head to Toe. He is the host there and co-hosting that show with Dr. T, Dr. Tlaleng Mufokeng, who also has got a lot of interest on matters of reproductive health and issues of intimacy and stuff. I'm sure low program Leo, has got lots of ratings. He's also a CEO of Apile Communications. All right, so that's a company that drives his interventions outside of the normal thing of working a medical practice. So he's got Apile Communications, where he's a CEO, and he's the MD of his Dr. M.M. Tebelele Incorporated. That is the legal entity, practice yake. So this is a man who does so many things: life coaching, team building, facilitate leadership, training, coordination. I don't know where he gets the time in a 24-hour day to actually do all of these things, but I'm one of his fans. He's doing great work. As somebody who is in the area of health advocacy and health promotion, this is one gentleman that I follow because he is consistent in the work that he does. He does research, for any topic as othetha ngayo. So you are sure to get quality information when you follow him, either on his channel or Kanya Griyazana or Head to Toe on the Umakapa TV. Dr. Tebelele, welcome to the Dr. Fundi channel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nyati, and for the warm welcome and the extended introduction. I feel at home, and thank you for the invite at Dr. Fundi channel. I'm honored and I'm really blessed to be part of the host of people who you actually host in the channel. And thank you for doing the great job, not only for you and your entities, but also for the country. The difference you're making is quite huge, more than you could know. So thank you for hosting. I'm so used to hosting people.
Yes, no, thank you very much, Doc. I don't know what ndikubize kanjani na ndithi Dr. Tebelele or ndithi Dr. Mthembeni or ndithi Dr. Impempe or ndithi Dr. Kusha.
Whatever comes first, those are my work tools. Can call me Teza, Dr. Tebel, whatever comes first, I'll appreciate. I don't mind. That's the word code. That's my overall.
That's beautiful,
I'm laughing at the nickname.
Yes, no, I thought, let me just put it in, because I remember one day on your Facebook page, you just put the Impempe there. And there were thousands of people who were commenting because they associate that whistling tool, to you. Obviously used in a different context, towards a health promotion. But,
Yes.
but it is the creativity that we as healthcare professionals need to have to distill information, science, be accessible to the people. So may you continue to do that, Doc. So today we invited you, Doc, because you are a mover and shaker. You are somebody who is impactful out there. And it is a day for us to just give salute to you and to say, Kubekeka, you've just started. We haven't seen anything yet. There's a lot that I'm sure is coming. you know, but just to encourage you on the current path, okuyo ukuba, you are actually, you know, doing great things. And as a healthcare worker, you have not limited to the traditional role of health workers, but you are actually able to venture into other things. And that is what we need of our medical doctors, to do more. I-ratio yogqirha to abantu in South Africa is low compared to other nations. So we need to be able to extend ourselves in many, many ways and push issues of health, not in the traditional ways, but in other ways, including involvement in media. So that is the reason why we invited you. And I hope the multitudes, Zako, you know, your followers, you've got more than 5,000 people on YouTube who are following you. You've got thousands of people on Facebook that are following you. And you've got millions on Umhlobo Wenene who are following you. And so it is important that those people have an opportunity to know who is Dr. Tebelele. You know, we always listen to him on the various platforms, but we don't know where this guy comes from. So today we've got 90 minutes. 90 minutes to make people know ukuba ungubani gqirha, like ubuyaphi, wazalelwaphi, wakhula kwifamily enjani, are you a last born, are you a first born, you know, zitoni values that you picked up from upbringing yakho ezisakuncedayo nangoku. You know, what kind of schooling did you have, you know, at Dalindyebo, you know, and why ungene UNITRA, wenza imedicine, intoni yakwenza uchoose imedicine. So sizawuqhuba nawe ke ngokukhawuleza apha ekuqaleni. Then when we get to your working life, we'll spend a lot of time there, up to where we are now, the stuff that you are doing. So so we just want to inspire people to know ukuba out of lo lali owaphuma kuyo, a brilliant person, a community builder can come out of that place. So that's really what we want. We want you to encourage, we want you to empower people, you know, through sharing your story. Okay, so the first one, Doc, is Tuko Sako, man, ungubani isituko gqirha?
Enkosi Fundi, isituko sami ngubhanqa, umtshilibe, umdumane, ubobese, ulango, unondize, umantyingesi umphambili engasingisele emntwini ozithathile elo tyala lam. Amantshilibe ke bekufamana esizwe sawo, qha ndisaphanda into yoba sinayo na noba yintwanana ye-royal blood, kangangendlela esibaninzi ngayo, kahamba kulalali ndizelelwe ndakhulela kuyo. Sinendawo ekuthiwa kusemantshilibeni phaa kangangoba sibaninzi. Singamantshilibe ke lilonke, obhanqa, omdumane, ontshontsho, oodangwana, sithi abo. Ndizalelwa
Imagqirha. You know, almost all these clan names, there will always be that part that is naughty. You know, if we for example, you know, we would kukho iphathi pha kongutyana kuthiwe omalandelwa zintombi zithi ndizeke, right? So ontshilibe ndivile there's something about ofuna uzithathela
kuthiwa ngomantyingisa umphambili bengasingisele emntwini ozithathela elo tyala lam, omafaka inyama enyameni kuvela inyama enamehlo.
Yo, hey. Yo, Doc, now I can see your love for matters reproductive health. It can be linked to your clan name, you know, the guys who showcase their equipment, and anyone who dares to taste that equipment, it's not your problem.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. That is our. Dr. Fundi, ndizalelwe kwilali. I was born kwilali ekuthiwa kuseMpunzana. Impunzana ilapha eVictorsville, which is about 25 kilometers kawuzongena eMthatha.
Yes.
The prominent person bana ngutata uMandela. Xa ulapha kwatata uMandela, ilali yamnanzi apha ngaphesheya ko-N2. Xa ugqiba udlula ipaki yaseQunu, 7.5 kilometers kunto ebhalwe Mpunzana Clinic. That is my area. That is where I was born. The only village with a clinic was Mpunzana. It was a drainage area for all the villages around Sakela, Makosa, Ngumane. That was the only clinic there that was serving all those areas. So it's a prominent village. I'm very proud to come from there, but it's very dusty and without resources, we rely on small farming. Small farming, looking after sheep, cattle, and cultivation. That is a little bit of me. In terms of lineup here, Beth, ndingumntana wesithathu. In fact, I was meant to be the fourth born. But I lost all the people who came before me. I lost my brother, bigger brother, and I lost my sister. Then it means I became a firstborn by default. I lost them in their old age. So, but I assumed the responsibility very early on in my life. Very, very early.
So nazalwane bangaphi?
Sizalwa sibayi-7. Sibayi-7 all in all. There are 2 sisters after me, and then last born yakuthi engumfana. So all in all we are 7, but surviving we are 4.
Yes. And you now are the firstborn by default.
Exactly, by default.
Yes. Now, you know, there's a thing about firstborns. Sometimes they are thought to be or deputy parent, even the way they carry themselves. Or deputy parent. Are you also that person who, because of being a firstborn, you now want to rule over your younger siblings?
To be honest with you, Dr. Fundi, as I said to you, I unfortunately, or fortunately, I was brought up by parents who were never schooled. And I lost my father in 1995 when I was still in medical school, and I lost my mother when I was still working in 2004. But I became a man even before I was a man. So my siblings would tell you that I parented them.
Yes.
I was not only a deputy parent, I became a parent, a very strict parent, because I wanted everyone to follow after me in the choice of subjects. Fortunately, we were gifted mentally. So I was assisting them in the choice of subjects, which streams. I wanted everyone to do mathematics, and I was supporting everyone. And fortunately, we got that bursary from the Transkei government, which is PSC. So I used that money to support them here and there. I didn't have much luxury. So I was not only a deputy parent. That's what I'm trying to justify. I parented them.
Yes. Now, as a bigger brother to 2 sisters that come before you, there's also another problem about big brothers, where, you know, they don't really want people to date or even show interest. You know, nibe nina phofu ube wena ubusy. I hope you were not that kind of big brother.
Oh, bancinci sister bam ngumbaza emva kwami ne, but le nto uyithethayo, it's you know, I was like a father to them and a big brother, so I was playing 2 roles. Bendibalinda nyhani, to be honest with you. I didn't want them to date at all. I didn't want them to get involved in alcohol, drinking. I was very protective, and yet again I was charming everyone around me. I was a bit selfish, but in whatever they were doing, they were very respectful, and they still are. But in Balinda, I was very protective of them. Even when it comes to marriage, the younger one is a social worker. When it came to marriage issues, I didn't trust that she could go and get married. I was reluctant to let her go. But eventually, I had to accept that she's old enough now. She can look after herself, and she's still married.
And so kulotyolwa pha kuwe
ndandingafuna loo lobola uzuqonde ndathi ibhedi yakhe izawuhlala phaa ilide, so that if there's anything wrong emzini ayazi uba nali khaya lakhe uyathandwa apha, is more than welcome. So I didn't even want to participate much nakuloo lobola, but eventually I was persuaded to let go. But ndim owamkela ilobola yakhe, ndim ohendlisha zonke ezo zinto, because ndilixhego ndiphinde ndibe ngumfana. with the assistance we've got Tato Mncinci and my younger brother who's far as part of the family. But
Yes.
we are a child-headed family with only one old man. But the fortunate thing is that as a Manchilibeke, we are a big clan. So we've got all uncle and so on.
Yes, beautiful. So the concept of it takes a village, it takes a clan to parent a child. It is very real, Kuni, because yes, bayasweleka abantu abadala, kodwa the broader clan and the community played a role ekunikhuliseni.
Yes, you captured it very well. We still have fathers, we still have mothers, even though they didn't give birth to us biologically, but in terms of deeds and actions, they do everything that as parents. So we're still surrounded by senior citizens who happen to be part of our clan, and some of them were even friends to our parents. So we still carry on with that legacy.
Beautiful.
So
And
we're not like an island.
you must keep that, because that's one thing that we are losing as Africans. The fact that we cannot live as an island. We actually have a support system within the clan yako, but also apubuya khona. And so it is very, very important to keep those things, because there's loser. All right, Gqirha. And then let's talk briefly about the schooling. How would you say, how would you characterize, your time as a school-going kid, up to Etalingebo? What kind of child were you? Naughty, bookworm, nje wawungumntu onjani?
General, I started schooling 1981, and remember in the then so-called Republic of Transkei, it was compulsory to go to school once you hit age 7. As I said, my mother was illiterate, and by then I was staying with Utadobawam, who unfortunately didn't have kids.
Yes.
So my parents had actually donated me to her to actually sit with her as her child. So
Yes.
my early childhood, I grew up under care Kadabs. And then until my sister got married, then I was brought back home to look after the sheep and so on, because I was a young boy who could do that now, because sister was my means. So then when it came to schooling, I remember my mother coming through apha kuDabs esithi lo mntana funeka esikolweni sizabanjwa kumathanzima. And then atsho esithi ke ngoku makabaleka esikolweni kwanamhlanje kwafuneka ndihlambe ngokukhawuleza. It was a quick decision one morning. Then xa ndifika esikolweni funeka I must go and look for my sister andinike ipen. Uye kuzukiswa akunika iball pen. Funeka uqale esikolweni namhlanje. My mother didn't even know into yoba kubhalwa ngelitho okanye ngepensile, but she knew into yoba
kwakwislate mos ngelaa xesha kubhalwa ngento ethile kwislate, wawungasebenzisi incwadi.
Exactly. So I started schooling in 1981 kwa sub A. There was no creche or preschool, whatever. I simply went to sub A, and then xa ndifika esikolweni kumiswama kwa Eumsinyoka, and then I was asked into yoba ndikwazi ubamba indlebe na the other side. Then kodwa I go in. Usemncinci kodwa zakuvulela ungene.
Yeah, mna Gqirha, that was a problem, because when I was 4 and I had to start schooling, they asked me to do the
you
same.
You couldn't reach your other ear.
And my hand couldn't reach the ear. Even though Utata was principal at high school, they refused me entry, doc, But my dad then shipped me to another school where they did not focus on the fact that my hand couldn't reach the ear. But that was a crude way of saying, are you ready for schooling or not?
Yeah.
And
no, we went through that. We went through that, and fortunately, I passed the ear touch test, and then I went to sub A, and I was bullying academically right from sub A. I was number 1 right from the start, and fortunately, in our years, there was a very encouraging assembly. At the end of the year, there used to be awards. I used to collect all awards right from sub A. I've got a nice photo of my young childhood where I was collecting all awards as number 1 from sub A, and then unfortunately, I didn't have much of resources in terms of shoes, in terms
Yeah.
of uniform. I was wearing khakis. Khaki was cheaper than grey.
Grey.
Grey and shirt. You needed to be a gentleman to wear a white shirt and a grey. Some of us were not very neat. We used to like khakis because the khaki might pin
That's all.
So that is how rough things were at the
So
start.
waqala nini ukunxiba izihlangu ugqirha, because kaloku ngelaa xesha wawungazinxibi izihlangu, uzinxibe ngecawe okanye ngeKrismesi okanye ke xa unelakhi iibhatata fees ozawuzinxiba ke zide zivuleke apha ngaphambili.
Definitely, I was on my feet for a long time. Then they didn't masa actually, because that's a move between Ukolusa no Sinkome DP Nekusha and then schooling. Izihlangu zozinxiba kwa standard 5. My first shoe was Idler. The first Idler I got when I was doing standard 5, and the reason I was bought that Idler is because one morning when I came to school at standard 3, the principal came to me beginning of the year and said, you must take your books. You are not going to do standard 4. Sasinalandum was 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then 5. So I skipped standard 4. They took me to standard 5 because I did so well. And the fortunate thing was that when they were teaching standard 4 on the other side, I could answer some of the questions at the at the standard 4 lectures. Yeah, so they felt that I could cope with standard 4. There's no need to waste my time. So they took me to standard 5. And then even at standard 5, I started bullying them academically again. And then I went on and on and on. So my schooling was, and there was not studying, to be honest with you. I didn't have time to sit down and study. I just listen in class, and then I go and write a test, and then I pass very well.
And ekhaya usebenzisa ikhandlela okanye usebenzisa i-Coleman xa ufuna ujonge noko incwadinyana.
Undikhumbuza incwadi katata u-K.S. Bongela noland. There's another guy who was using ilahle lomlilo, Edward Chapaka Ahmed. Besebenzisa isibane separaffin and also ikhandlela, but ikhandlela was a scary issue because ikhandlela once ulale lightiwe liyathanda utshisa izinto, so besebenzisa isibane kakhulu separaffin. That is the bulk of my studying and preparation was done under a paraffin light. There was no electricity. That was a dream. We never even thought that we would have electricity in a rural area. That was a dream. Like I said,
yes, you moved to Dalindyebo, mas fast track at Dalindyebo, which is a bit far away from Klelali yakho.
Yeah, Dalindyebo is actually about 5 to 7 kilometers from land down the Kuyo. It was a very popular school then in terms of results, because parents were interested in academic results. You would look at St. John's, you would look at Dalindyebo, you'd look at, there were about 5 schools that were prominent then in terms of academic competition. So Dalindyebo was the one that in terms of resources was nearer to me, because I was not going to stay in a hostel, I was going to stay in Matlamesini. So I went to Dalindyebo. I have a good friend that I was growing up with, Umalbongwe. So we were partners right from childhood. So even to high school, we went together. So I had someone who knew the area around. So it was not difficult to get in the Ohlala. Usister wam wabe endele kwela cala in terms of emzini wakhe. So I had a stint of staying with her also. But eventually when it came towards standard grade 12, then I was staying closer to the school with my friend, Malbong.
Yes.
And then Dalindyebo, I was a quiet guy. I was a very quiet guy. I don't think that was my character. It's because of resources, lack of resources, low self-esteem, low self-confidence, even though I had all the uniform and books and so on. So much that in class I was not vocal. But when it came to results, people would actually start moving around. That is Gabos. When it came to science, mathematics, and biology, people would actually wonder who's number one, and there are people who are very vocal in class. I was not vocal, but when it comes to writing tests and so on, then I would top them. And then they start looking, how did this guy become number one and whatever? Then it was a norm.
Yes.
It was a norm. And I didn't
wongaba bahlala ngaphambili gqirha okanye wongaba aba badalanyana bahleli pha ngemva kuthi xa kuthiwa 2 times 2 3 times 3 balinde aba bangaphambili uba ibe ngabo abaphendulayo.
Ndandihlala ngaphambili. Ndandihlala ngaphambili because there was a nice system at Dalindyebo. On number ones, we had 8A to 8E. And then after June exams, they would take the top 10 students from each class. Kwa A. So all the A classes, 8A, 9A, and 10A. And there was nice competition between academic students and general students. All the people doing history, general. Tinasa sends the message that is academic. And then the middle class was the business guys and so on. So we wanted to bully the whole school. So there was nice competition. So exactly.
So this young lady, Unwabisa, my colleague who's supporting me here, that's the reason why she's here. She's going to be taking questions from the viewers. In fact, anybody who's watching now, if you want to send a message to Dr. Tebelele or you have a question to Dr. Tebelele, just send a comment on Facebook. Unfortunately, those who are watching maybe on your channel, they may not be able to do so. But those who are able to view my channels, they can be able to send messages to Udok, whether they are complimenting him or asking a question or something. Nwabisa will then read them as a way of making sure that this is an interactive, type of discussion. So, Doc, how did you then decide, all right, now I am in matric, standard 10 those days, grade 12 now, and I want to go and do medicine, a unit. So when did you settle on a career, apply Funda lendo?
In medicine. In fact, I had interest very early on, as even on the subject choices, because you start choosing subjects once we hit grade 10, which was standard 8. There's a neighbor of mine, Professor Velapi, is Mkhuluwa. Yeah, Ustembiso is Mkhuluwa lo. My inspiration. I know, because my neighbor is about 5 houses away from home. So it's someone I was looking up to, is someone who inspired me, is someone who generated interest in me. I was looking up as much as so this year already I made up my mind.
Let me tell you a little bit about him. Sorry to Ustembiso, Professor Stembiso Velapi, who is your neonatal specialist and upete unit upper Chris Hani Baragwana Hospital. He is one of the top academics at the Vets University, right? And so Ustembiso went to high school with my brother Umteto at St. John's College. And and he got the bursary kamthembu sasibizwa umthembu ke ibhasari yaseTranskei yabo and got ibhasari oba akazange afumane kaTepa, one of the two, either ekaTepa okanye yaseTranskei, I'm not sure, to go and do medicine in Natal.
He got a bursary.
He was a very, very clever chap. He still is one of the very brainy chaps we have in this country. So I thought to have somebody like that, elalini yakho, surely it will rub off. You want to be like him.
Definitely. He's such an inspiration. A very humble guy. Is someone I can call on anytime. Is someone it's just a stone throw away. So I'm very happy to hear what you're saying. It's still as brilliant as you are, and he spent some time in USA. To an extent that I was so excited when he called me. He was in USA studying, and then I got a call. First time I got an overseas call was from him, and so he's just I love him. He has inspired me. He continues to mentor me, and he was disappointed when I said, "No, Prof, I'm done with medicine. I've got enough medicine. I cannot go ahead. I think the medicine I have is enough. I cannot go and specialize. I don't like one theme." Hence, I branched off to do my MBA. He accompanied me to the airport and whatever, but he was not happy.
But at the same time, we also need to learn Ukuti. We can't always create clones of ourselves. you know. So at least the fact that he respected your decision is good enough.
Definitely.
Yes.
And he
All right,
supported
Doc.
it.
So you went to, you applied to various universities, and then you eventually chose Le Ilapa Ekaya, UNITRA. You got in there. How was, how would you characterize the 6 years there quickly?
In fact, Dr. Fundi, let me just touch on one thing on the application, just for the sake of black children. My
Yes.
application, remember, I came from a very disadvantaged family. My mother was a domestic worker. My father was a laborer in Johannesburg municipality, working in the roads and whatever. So we're getting very little resources.
Mm.
When it came to application, there's a gentleman that I want to mention, Mr. Adose. The teachers of those days, they were not only looking at actually educating you, they were also looking at your welfare. So
Yes.
they knew my interest. They took my application and everything. They paid my application fee. They took my application to the university and so on.
Yeah.
So I was assisted. There's also another teacher that I was very close to. I teach agriculture, Mr. Square. So those guys were looking after me. And my
Yeah.
principal was a very diligent guy, Mr. Mapun, as much as he was not teaching me, because he was teaching Bips and English, but they were very supportive and they looked after everything. So the
Yes.
application was taken by other people to the university, but they knew my choice. And when it came to getting into the university, there's a gentleman who's now ailing, Mr. Tony Uplom, is a community member. He accompanied me to PSC offices and he simply demanded bursary. I said, what can you do with a student like this? He was carrying my results and so on. And fortunately, those days, the results just my Impempe. So if you're a top student, everyone would get to know. It's like we've made headlines. So it was easy to get bursary. Kwa PSC South Africa ndizakuveza results anika form ndabe ndiyangena university. Apho ndadibana khona ke ngoku with my colleagues or the late Professor Pepeta queuing for residencies and so on. And we're in medical school.
Yes.
It was not difficult to get medical school. We went through the interviews, and fortunately, they were starting a new program called Problem-Based Learning. WSU, yeah.
Yes.
We were the first group to actually embark on that program.
Yes, which is a very good approach to learning medicine, because I mean, right now I was talking to some of our colleagues, Dr. Temba Mabaso, not Dr. Tumisani Pomela, about the challenge of reintegrating the South Africans who have been taken to Cuba to train in medicine. Their medicine is very much community orientated, primary healthcare orientated, problem-based type of teaching, and this model Onai Otetangayo Umamu Kabamukwena had brought that model from the various areas of Jongile, because he wanted the graduates as a UNITRA to be different and more relevant to the needs of South Africa. And now we have a situation where the guys who have qualified at Cuba, they are very good, very orientated to what we need for the majority. Yet the dominant approach is the British, approach to medicine, which sometimes does not always, benefit, optimally communities zethu. So they were trying to bring that to South Africa, but also that was against a wave that was saying no, that will produce inferior doctors. But look at where we are now. People like you are making waves. People like our Professor Pepeta and many others, or Dr. Mafongosi, and many other people are actually, benefiting from the grounding and from the approach that's very much community orientated from a UNITRA, medical school. Right now, Doc, I just want to remind Abantu they can send comments, on my Facebook, those who are watching on YouTube, but also they can send a WhatsApp message, because I'm worried about some of your people. The number is 083 391 4106. 083 391 4106, because I want Abantu Bako to be able to interact with you, Doc. It is sometimes important to hear people how are they experiencing you, how are they receiving you. But ke nakwicala lakho, you know, I'm sure there's a way yokuba ufumane messages, but just to fast track on this side, 083 391 4106 WhatsApp. You know, ungadithumeleli videos the conspiracy theories, please. I just want abantu abafuna ukuqhwaba izandla for Dr. Tebelele. All right, and then Unwabisa, my support staff, will then be able to read the messages that are coming through from either Facebook or YouTube or even from WhatsApp. All right. All right. Doc, you had just started telling us about UNITRA and the fact that, you know, people played a role in ensuring that you get accepted, and not just getting accepted, to get a bursary, because kaloku ekhaya bokungathathwa entweni. Yes.
Yeah, getting a bursary was a plus for me, because without support, without as much as UKD blame about everything, but there's one thing the Transkei government did: investing in education. They didn't compromise. Agriculture and education, they were topping. They were topping. They did very well for us, and they paid for everything and even gave us a stipend. So we had a good time at university. We were only worried about delivering, because all they want is for you to deliver academically. And then, in terms of class, it's a serious adjustment to start first year medicine fresh from matric. You see, I was a bully and a top student from matric, and then in our first test in physics, I got 15%. And even Professor Pepeta was in that region. And many of my friends were laughing at you that, hey guys, if people can see us, scripts they couldn't believe in these are the same guys who were actually so brilliant. But adjusting to university life is a huge demand on your brain, lifestyle, and everything.
Ukufundiswa ngabantu abathethe English as a first language, you know, uqhela ukufundiswa ufumaniswa nootitshala bakho xa besenza house beyonegotiate i-account, you know, bayaqhothoza kwi-English, you know, ngoku bengo-English teacher bakho ku-standard 10, you know, and now you must adjust to a situation where, because you guys had a lot of lecturers who came from India, you know, who spoke English. You had a lot of lecturers who came from Uganda, Ghana, you know, who spoke English. And so, you know, getting used to, you know, being taught in English certainly should have been a challenge, yeah?
It was a serious challenge. It was a very serious challenge. And also the method of teaching. It assisted us when we started the PBL, but initially on our first year, we were mixed with science students. It only started becoming a problem-based in our second year, where now we're sitting around the table and whatever, then it was quite easy. But first year, the labs, the integration with science students and so on, it was so tough. Doing physics, doing chemistry, the science subjects and so on. It was, but within a few months, we actually found our footing, and then we proceeded very well.
Beautiful, beautiful, Doc. And then you went to second year, and now in second year, it's anatomy, it's physiology. Funeka uhlale nihlale nigrutshiswe nibe nesidumbu senu unyaka wonke nizawusixhela unyaka wonke gqirha. How was that? You know, was it a shock to your system in any way?
Not to me as such, because mental preparation was done, and in class we're a group of 20, we're 29. We're such a small group, 29. So even in the dissection hall, we used to have about 6 people in this group. So we used to know each other. In class we're like a family. We used to know each other very well. Very well. We're in the same class. So we're more a very neat class. A very united class, more like a family. We used to assist each other. Some of the women used to be scared initially, but if everyone was solid when it comes to dissection and so on, we used to even go at night now when we're used to it. It was not an issue. We even forgot that we're dealing with cadavers.
Ningacingi uba sizoporha isidumbu.
No, not at all. There's an old man there, Professor Baguma. Professor
Yes.
Baguma, he used to cry when he was doing orientation there so that we respect the dead people. He used to cry and give us 30 minutes of talking on how to respect what we're doing there and not take it for granted and so on. So it was a serious matter.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
ended up enjoying it because that is how we learned anatomy, and that is how we learned to see what we see in textbook, and then we see it live. In second year, it was very good. But one subject that was troublesome was physiology. Physiology was very difficult, very difficult. But it is the one that one actually needs to understand medicine because
Yes, because
everything
you
is
need to
very,
understand how the normal body works before
yeah,
you can then be able to look at how does the abnormal body work. Yes.
exactly.
Yes, but wampasa ku-second year wakho gqirha because kuyona nyaka mna ndithi unguyena unzima. Wambetha nje.
Yeah, that's true. Second year is the one where you get the gist, the real gist of medicine and the real foundations. Yampasa nje without any hassles. Then we got to third year. Third year, that is when we do pathology. That was the most talking about subject, pathology. But
Yeah.
also there, macrobiology. I didn't have much issues. Pharmacology. Pharmacology was quite tough also because you needed to know each drug. You don't only know the drug, you need to know how does this drug work, how is it excreted, and then when does it peak, the half-life, and so on. Every drug. So pharmacology was quite difficult, but we managed to sail through.
Yes. Yeah, gqirha. Just on another silly note, you know, when you get to third year, that's usually the first year that you are allowed to go to the wards. You are given your stethoscope and you have a white coat. So ngoku ungazinto kodwa uyakwazi uyonkunza uzenze ugqirha kubantu abangazinto. You know, bacimba ngugqirha kanti abakazi nix. Uyabona xa unemba esitratweni ulinde i-transport ubuyele eyunivesithi you put your stethoscope there basivele so that you know you get some unfair advantage you know over other students who are doing other courses.
That is why people hated medical students. They either treated us as bookworms or also as a threat to the female section of the school. Honestly speaking, unxiba i-waistcoat kagqirha nophatha i-stethoscope is something one was looking forward to, and it's an exciting moment. You begin to express yourself like a doctor, and you begin to bully other people. Even when you visit other universities for sporting codes and whatever, once someone says they are medical students, you start asking anatomy questions and so on, because now you want that feeling of being a doctor.
Yeah.
And even with trying to attract the opposite sex, medical students, once you say medicine, we were very busy, but we had time for Uya Mzana, and Kauya Mzana, you want to make a statement. It's like a stage in a university. That is when we became clued up. So it was an exciting moment, and hence, which I say, we parented each other. Saba ngumzali omnye nakomnye nakomnye. Because sasiyeholweni naxa sitya as a group, xa kuripotelwa uba how did it go? If we all plead Mzana, ubuya ureport into about how did it go? And then when things are not going well, we report emajideni nalapho. Everything, counseling is done here.
Yes, gqirha abantwana bangoku abayazi into yoba long time ago you used to have a skill in proposing le nto kuthiwa kuplida because you know if you are unable to show ability you know to communicate interests zakho in a way that appeals to the person of the opposite sex uzoba sishumane. Yeah, so ukuplida was standard. Ukuplida le nto yangoku uba niqhwethane ku-inbox ku-Facebook and then the next minute seniya kwi-date it's a short circuiting of things. Ukuplida had to be standard. So gqirha wawuguda apha ekuplideni.
Dr. Fundi, as you can see, the remnants that are still left. No, ndandingembanga kakhulu, but I was surrounded by amaciko endandihlala ndinawo ndifunxa skills. And then I didn't have tough time. No, andingomntu usokola kakhulu uziexpressa xa ndinomdla. And ke ngoku awuzubetha ekugqibeleni ndandiyazi into yoba ndizubethwa. Another advantage I had was that I was in leadership positions.
Yes.
So I was assisting quite a number of students in a number of issues, good as the bursaries and so on.
Yes.
And so it was easy for me to express myself because I was a class in Dan theater. Come on, class in Dan, we had Indian students most and a few white students. So I used to interpret closer to English. So I was quite active even in class because no percent is sombuluka le mali ka PSC no kibonakala bikhona andihlelele kangancane. So bekungekho nzima ukuzibika at all.
Ukwazi umuntu umse eMthatharama yayisekhona eMthatharama those days. Yasemthatha.
Yeah, ndifuna uxoka when it comes to into zobheja we were not zazibadanga kwinto yobheja. Women those days they were not too much materialistic. I mean there were no phones. There were, I mean even to go and eat out it took time to even source something to go and eat out. So bekusenziwa basic
dining hall nje kuphela.
Sawuse dining hall nobhethe ngeyogurt okanye ngobisi and whatever. But le nto yobhetha yona isolo ikhona uba kufuneka ubonakale noko ungumntu one TLC umuntu okhathalayo whatever, but resources women were not that much materialistic, not as much as today is. Life was very simple. Life was very, very simple.
Yegqirha kukho umbuzo apha ne from Ushane Dyanti. My question to Dr. Impempe is that being a medical doctor, managing Apiwe communications and having a family on the other hand, how do you balance all of this, ensuring that you don't compromise, on your family life? That's a very important question, Doc. Can you quickly just tackle that? Questions comments.
Thanks, Dr. Fundi. That's a very, very important question for Shane. Shane, I did life coaching. After doing my MBA, if you listened, I did life coaching. Life coaching taught me work-life balance. One thing I didn't want to get absorbed too much in medicine is that medicine is very demanding, not only in medical school, but also in terms of work. We do calls as interns and as junior doctors. We used to stand on our feet 24 hours. So now that I'm working on my own, I've got a private practice. It means I work from around 9 until around 7. And it's a flexible type of work because I get to do quite a few things in the morning. So I spend a lot of time with my family, just like now. I wouldn't have time to sit here if I was working in hospital. And also, I like my family very much. When I go to activities, I try to spend every moment with them. Every break I have, holidays and so on, because privately, it means I'm my own boss. And I do a little bit of work for SABC, and that is planned. Planning is very important.
Time management.
Time management, exactly. For instance, my week now, the coming week is already planned. I know that 11:15, I'm on Mthembeni on Wednesday. I know that on Tuesday at 10:10, I'm doing through FM, and I'll be doing a shoot for Bay TV, the Pumakaba TV shoot. I do about 4 episodes at once, and then I'm done. I wait for that to play. So it's planning and time management, but knowing that doctors are very busy. And when you see a doctor, you think of someone who's a bookworm, someone who's addicted to their work and so on, or someone who's an absent husband. So that, because we're aware of such things now, we try and work against them. So it's something that is happening, but I'm conscious about them. And also, what also helps me is that my wife is also a doctor. So we always create nice accidents.
Yes. Wegqirha mani ibalulekile loo nto leyo ungathi ucebisa abantu phaa kumhlobo wenene ubahlupheza phaa abantu mabahambe bayokwenza into ezibukwayo ebedroom kanti wena uyasilela gqirha usisi banguthembisa kanene
Mthembisa, yeah.
yes usisithembisa uphathwa indlala yabo wena ubhizi uyathetha pha unikeza impression ngathi uqhuba kakuhle apha endlini kanti
Uyabona ke Dr. Fundi, umcimbi wendlala, indlala yenza uchuku. Indlala yenza uchuku and yenza nomuntu akhawuleze aguge nalapha ebusweni and so on. For us to stay youthful and for us to stay united and to avoid conflicts and so on, we try to make sure about whatever I preach and teach outside, I implement at home.
Okay,
So
hayi ke mos ubabalwe usisithembisa ubabalwe mos inhlutha yi-second name yakhe.
And that is why esahlele emthathweni nangoku akho nto asiqeda ngayo. So and another thing endincediyo Dr. Fundi to seal off the question, when I prepare for the talks zikaPhile Communications, uThembisa is an integral part of my preparation. Ezi mpempe zipolishwa nguye, ndiphatha impempe negushethe xa ndiyothetha. So zipolishwa nguye ezi zinto, nguye ondiphathisayo. She's my #1 supporter and she's more like a producer of what I talk. Mna, I've got a big mouth, but she's silent and doing all the background work and so on.
Beautiful.
So working together helps a lot.
All right. Okay. You know, Doc, another, a friend of mine here, Utolokazi Unoksi, wapha eMundi, uthi our famous doc on Mhlobo Wenene. You don't want to miss on Wednesdays. Very informative. Enkosi ngesakhono onaso Doc Tebelele. It's just a comment. All right. Dr. Bovungana, unqanga uthi omafaka inyama enyameni uyithandile laa nto when you were telling us about your clan names, omafaka inyama enyameni. Usikhumbuzo Sompisi uthi I am glad you touch on the situation of adjustment from annually to semester. It challenges a lot of students. When I was doing my first semester, I got 20% in engineering maths. Mind it was my first time seeing the multiple choice in maths. So your adjustment challenges are not unique, Doc.
Okay.
Uma Wande Kuchano Yabuza, who was the principal at Dalindyebo during your time, Dr. Tebelele?
Oh, thank you so much. When we arrived at Dalindyebo, the principal Mike Sodo, Mr. Mike Sodo, is in sports and development now in the province. But unfortunately got involved in an accident and then he left the school and went into sport and education. Then kwazofika Mr. Mabunu, who was the principal through my tenure. Then the vice principal, Mr. Chaiso. So ndifikele Mike Sodo, then eventually Mr. Mabunu. Then just to comment on Dr. Bovungana. Dr. Bovungana, are people like you, those are our senior colleagues. Those are people who received us at Livingston as interns. It's people we appreciate, it's people we are because they created they fought all the battles for us. We're like younger brothers, yeah. We appreciate Osanga, Bovungana, yes, Themba, Usbarwam. That's my best man. Those are Abakulu Abaraj, those are the people who actually prepared the way for us. We highly appreciate them, the support, everything that they did before us.
But they prepared the way in many ways. Even when you guide, AUPE, PE Tech.
Zonke ezo ndawo si-orientate kwakwindawo kuthiwa kusesportini sizazi ezo zinto ngenxa yabo ngabo basifundisa ezo zinto ukuhlala kwasebhayi into yoba kuhlalwa kanje ebhayi kwenziwa ngolu hlobo basibonisile ezo zinto bezama into yoba ekugqibeleni kuzokwakheka le mizi.
Kofu ke nibizwa uba nizikofu because when you don't come from PE they refer to you as ibhari ikofu,
yeah, that's a
open at accepting abantu who come from outside of PE.
Not at all. It takes time. It takes time for you to gel in PE because kukhona laa nto into yoba asuka ngabantu basemaphandleni aba and so on. You are like a foreigner.
Yes.
But I mean, we've been here now for more than 20 years, so it was a smooth run because bekhona abantu abanjalo who received us.
Okay, beautiful. Let's move on quickly, Doc. We need to get to your working life. and Appeal Communications and the stuff you're doing for the radio. So any highlights that you'd like to share with us about your time at medical school?
Very much so. One thing I would like to share, there's something that was introduced while we were at medical school, what community, what is this thing? Community service. It was introduced as legislation as a medical school. We must to be sure to oppose it. Now, looking back, I think it was misinformed of us to do that because community service has done a lot of impact for the country. This thing of actually South African doctors are not found in disadvantaged hospitals. So that law was meant to force us to work in disadvantaged hospitals. Looking back now, it was a very good policy. Very, very good policy. Whatever they did it very well because everyone now rotates. And then secondly, I participated in a lot of student activities, including leadership. Medical students are known as bookworms, but at varsity, I managed to get to represent the whole faculty at the student representative, the SRC. So I was at student union buildings, I was like minister.
Yeah.
I interacted there with a lot of other students, Tembeka, Khupushe, Msindwana. It was a nice grooming for future leadership roles. So spending time in SRC was one of the highlights at varsity, and also assisting a lot of students to get bursaries. And I think it lay a lot of foundation in terms of interactions, leadership roles, and assisting many other people, and meeting my wife, because I met my wife at varsity.
That was your highlight.
That was the highlight. It still remains a highlight because I met her at varsity almost at my exit year. She was finishing a BSc. Ndabe mna ngigqibezela medicine, and then kanti lubambo lwam olo.
Tyhini.
Ndavunywa sendizawuhamba.
Tyhini. Hayi wona la advantage yoba sowuyisenior so uzogqiba yena engekaqali.
Ndandikwikalenda yesikolo kaloku ndandixhonye kuzo zonke izinto. Ndakungena emzana kwakungena ndikhona apha kweza khalenda. Kwakukwikalenda yeSASIPA. So ndandimakishiwe kwezinye izindlu mhlawumbi kuthiwe crush yam and whatever. Uyayibona loo nto. So I had nice time. So academically, I don't think I performed very well at university because I was too busy. I was too busy. I didn't reach my full potential academically, but I was just passing normally. But fortunately, I was in the same study group as a very serious guy, Professor Pebet Olungile was a very serious guy. So he's the one who was collecting us. We were about 4 or 5 guys in that study group. So at least that helped me in terms of discipline.
Yes. Ebuya ngapha eMbizana.
Yes, ebuya eBizana, a rural boy. Why actually zangafumana indawo eNatal. Ufike late apha kuthi, and ke ngoku sahlala ndawonye because in terms of accommodation sasigroupisha according to indlela esipase ngayo. So he was my neighbor. So saba zifriends ke ngolo hlobo, and aseclassini sayenda apha moving the same stream, and one other late friend who Dr. Kamanga, whose son is just qualified. So we were sailing, not Dr. Ndaba, who is in Queenstown.
Yeah.
So we're in that group. Noxhoma Usendwe.
Yes. Just on that point, Doc, I know we are still talking about you, but how did you take the passing on of that gentleman, Professor Lungile Pepeta, somebody who did so much at such a young age, who still promised so much, and you were the main person who was driving the processes around his passing and going to eBizana for apho awayobekwa khona umzimba wakhe. Just quickly, Doc, I don't want us singene kakhulu, sizawuphinda ngenye imini sikhe sithethe about Prof and the impact he had. I just wanted your personal reaction to what happened.
That is still a very painful lesson, Dr. Fundi. Very, very painful. It was touching in Dr. Lungile. And you when looking back, I always feel maybe there's something that we could have done better. There's something I even feel for the doctors who are looking after him, because every time I feel so much is done for COVID now. Maybe we could have done that, they could have done that, and so on. It's still a very sore wound, very sore wound. But I know they did their best. We lost a very high caliber person, a very intelligent person, a person who still had a lot to do for the country, serious impact, an independent mind, someone who had so much energy and commitment, someone who could voice his feelings, but unfortunately lost so early in life. But fortunately, the medical school is going on. At least there are quite a number of things that are still going ahead because he had laid all the foundation.
So his legacy has outlived him.
Definitely not lost. Is definitely being followed, and a lot is happening because he did all the groundwork. And pity that he didn't live long to see the fruits of what he sweat for.
All right, Nwabisa,
Yes,
do you have any comment that you'd like to read to Udoc? I already read a few, which is some that you should have done. So are there any comments before singing we work live, Katri?
Okay. Yes, there are. We have one from Umkwambi Sipho. He says Silapho. And then Unoma Nongaba Makoka. She says Simamele Ngomonde. And then Umadoda J Dada Kangwali says, I'm here, sir. And then we have again from Umadoda J Dada. He says, it explains it then in Indaba Impempe. And then we have another one from Siabu Sheikh Mbuzo, says Matanzima was right, Mos. And then we have again from Mawande Gutyana, which says, what an organic discussion. Enkosi Dr. Nyati for hosting Upango. And then we have again from Mawande, which reads, who was, oh, okay, Doc has already read this one.
The one from Wendy Bloom.
Yes, you read that. And
no, I haven't read the one from Wendy Bloom. You can read it.
Okay, let me go down. All right, Wendy Bloom says, what an inspiring life story with early vision and accomplishment. I work in a voluntary capacity with child-headed families, also with the same financial inhibitors. Besides filling tummies and getting them schooled, it's always a challenge to coach them to visualize a better future. This fine example would help in coaching, motivating. Congratulations to the doctor, to the good doctor, and to Dr. Fundile for always having such inspiring guests from whom I learned from. Thank you. And then we have from Umnisi, which says, thanks, Doc. And then we have from Unontombi Mamase, who's asking which channel. I think she's asking regarding Mthembeni, or I'm not certain. And then we have.
I think ungayiphendula Doc in terms of your channels because you are YouTube wakho.
Yeah, YouTube channel singu Apile Communications, APHILE, Apile Communications. We currently have about 11.5 thousand followers. Then ku Facebook is Apile Communications also. We've got more than 70,000 followers. We're gunning 400,000, God helping. And also on my personal account, we've got about 35,000 followers, which is Mthembeni Tebelele. But I encourage people to follow the page because I'm more active on the page in terms of empowerment and the lessons. And then we talk on Wednesdays. On Wednesday, and our focus there is reproductive and sexual health. I was given a mandate there to focus on below the belt issues.
Yes.
On Wednesdays,
zibalulekile Doc below the belt issues. Imizi yafa ngenxa yengxaki kuloo ndawo.
Kakhulu, and ayikhethi Fundi. Ayinagqirha, ayinajaji, ayina-CO. Impempe ziyabhatyaza, ziyaguga, yonke into kuyonakala. So it's important to also to touch on issues of life, and also noting about the black communities, sex has been a taboo. So it's a very nice subject. It's something I planted myself in, and it is something that is liberating a lot of minds. We cannot all go to the forest for liberation. Now we are in the battle to liberate the mind of a black person. Sibhizi sivula, but abanye abantu bazayibamba sekukudala into basizama ukwenza ntoni.
All right, Doc. Any other question, Nwabisa?
Yes, Doc. We have from Alizwa Kashani, says, what challenges did you face during your first year in varsity and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think that has already been answered.
Adjustment academically.
Yes.
I mean, I never failed any subject in my life until I hit varsity where I got 15% in physics. But fortunately, all the brainy people around me were in the same boat. We all failed. So adjustment from matric to university, it's a serious task, very, very serious. But we eventually found our footing. Also, the question of resources, getting a bursary was a relief for me because self-esteem, self-confidence. Someone who knows me from high school, high school, I cannot believe one team quiet. Resources, they can make a very, very big difference in terms of personality, self-esteem, the self-confidence. Things are now moving.
Yes. Doc. All right. So you were telling us about the highlights, Zako. Let's get to your working life now. So you then finished medicine. How did you feel, when you now had that certificate, Esandleni Sako? Uba, you now have finished your MPCHP. What did it mean to you? Somebody who doesn't have a mother and a father, and of course there's a name for that.
Yes.
Yeah, he orphan in English. Somebody who lost parents like as a student. How did it feel, that accomplishment?
Fortunately, when I qualified, my mother was still alive. I lost my dad when I was doing fourth year. Yeah, 1995, I was doing fourth year also. Then the oath-taking ceremony, that you feel like you are already graduating when you take that oath to become a doctor. It's a very touching moment. It's a very fulfilling moment. It's a moment of commitment. When you feel into about now I'm going to serve the country, this thing has actually come out of everything that I've been here at varsity for. The 6 years in Tebelele, now I'm really a doctor. We even begin to call each other a doctor when the results come out. That is, we've long been looking forward to this moment. So it's a very fulfilling moment, Dr. Fundi. You feel like it's a mission accomplished. Your family has been struggling all along. You've been carrying a load all along because we studied big books. Now it's like a relief. That is why I think there's a need for counseling when people become intense, because we lose a lot of people through accidents. A lot of doctors and a lot of young doctors, they go on drinking sprees, and a lot of doctors get infected with HIV because we get reckless. We need a bit of coaching when we transition from that qualification to the actual work environment. And to get credit cards, you get calls from people who don't even know. You get offers because people know that you will soon get an appointment letter. You chow money that you don't even have. Yeah, so it was an exciting moment and a fulfilling moment. And now I felt like I'm going to relieve. Finally, I'm going to relieve my mother, who's this domestic worker who has been carrying on with everything, not only looking after me. I used to tease my sibling and say, my mother did a good thing because out of all of them, I'm the only one who was fed with tins, breast milk and tins. And so on. My mother decided to invest in me.
Yeah, with whatever little that she had. Now, Doc,
exactly.
Yes, so obviously coming from that family that was challenged, there must have been a situation of a responsibility to uplift the ones who came behind you. We normally refer to it as a black tax, but really, so let's just quickly talk about black tax. Was it an issue for you? Is it an issue for you, or is it something that comes naturally?
It comes naturally because since I assumed the responsibility as early as age 21, so when I qualified, I knew I just have to look after my siblings, make sure that everyone becomes a graduate and everyone is able to look after himself or herself. Then I'll only be able to call myself a doctor when I see transition. Because I grew up in 3 Rondavels, I needed to revamp my home so that it becomes home of a doctor. But I was never shy to point where my home is. I was never shy of my background. I was never shy of my parents, the fact that my parents were illiterate, but there's a difference between someone obaliseleyo poverty and someone who has gone through poverty. So going through poverty makes you angry because you don't want anyone to go through what you went through. You always want to liberate. That is why I'm very sympathetic to a person who's suffering, because I'm a giver. I'm a giver in many aspects. I've assisted a number of students. There are a number of graduates that I've actually assisted, because I'm not only looking after my own siblings who are now independent, but also a number of other Black children that came across me for assistance. I've actually been able to help them. So Black tax is not painful for me, because I'm a product of Black tax. There are a number of people that actually assisted me on the way. Just like even my own application to university, it was taken by a certain Mr. Aduse who was teaching history. He was not even teaching me, but he took care of me. He went to pay Mr. Ngudle, who's a biology teacher now. So I was taken care of. So I don't think it's not a burden for me to take care of the next person, because I know what it means.
All right, Keka. So your junior years, internship, and also ComServe, I'm not going to talk much about that, okay? And you became an MO, a medical officer up until 2006, I think. 2006, At that time, you are trying to, get experience, of being a doctor, rotating across different, disciplines of medicine. You are trying to make up your mind, should I specialize, in one of them or not? Do I go and become a GP? So Doc, at what point then now did you decide, well, actually, I think I am going to be an independent medical practitioner. I'll set up my own practice. I will go to PE and actually set up in PE and be an independent medical doctor focusing on primary healthcare issues in Port Elizabeth. We've got some questions that have come in as well. Then Ukunwabisa is going to read the questions soon thereafter.
Okay, quickly, after finishing my internship I was rotating between Livingston Hospital, Provincial, and Dorangenza Hospital. That is 1998. The fortunate thing about internship is that to get integrated with students, interns from other universities, there was an element of being undermined, because you remember the University of Transkei was the youngest university then, and even in terms of recognition of the qualification, we were struggling. So people didn't know what to expect from doctors from that side of the region. But I think South Africa has done very well in terms of the internship program. This thing of mixing doctors, irrespective of where they qualified, and this thing of rotating examiners from the college, that thing is powerful, because it makes the system uniform. And the advantage we had from Transkei, because we were very few students, we had a lot of practical experience. We know pathology. We have seen, people have never seen leprosy. Most of the things they've never seen, we had seen. It's not only theoretical for us. So it gave us an advantage. And some of us had already assisted in a number of scissors and so on. So practically, we were quite advanced. So we're smooth sailing in terms of internship, but it's nice. That integration is nice with people from other universities. Then
it helps you to benchmark as well. Who's benchmark?
Exactly. You because you want to see how do you compare to an intern from UCT. Fortunately, I had quite a few of them. One of them is now in Jeffreys Bay. So I used to benchmark what is it that UCT is doing that we're not doing. So it's nice because you begin to see where you are. And even your MOs will tell, when you're stupid, the guys will tell, hey, you never do that again and so on, because you still work under supervision anyway. So you see the errors you do and other people that are capable of doing, so it helps a lot. Then 99 I was at Frontier Hospital doing ComServe, because we were still the first group to do community service. And then from there, I was dished at Umlamli Hospital in Stakespate, the border of Lesotho and so on. I've never been there. I used to get tire punctures almost every time I go to town. And we're getting a very lousy allowance. I think it was 400 and something rents. The salaries were quite meager. It was an insult to doctors, to be honest with you. That is why when I finished my ComServe, I had decided that I'm getting out of the state because of the financial pressures, and I needed to sort a lot of things at home and I needed to look after my siblings. Then I resigned. And when I resigned, there's a guy who called me from PE. He's my homeboy, Dr. Dlangamandla. He had a practice in PE. So he was leaving for Cape Town. So he invited me to do a locum. Locum, I wanted money. So I took a gamble. I was very tiny and young. I took a gamble. I said, I'm going to resign because I need to make quick money. I cannot go and specialize when the foundation is still leaking. So that is what got me out. So 2000, I was already private because I got my certificate to practice independently. I immediately used it. That is how I got back to P. Otherwise, I had no plan. It was just a phone call that took me back. And then I settled it. Eventually, I bought the practice towards end of year 2000. And then I changed it to an incorporated practice. That is where I am up until today.
Beautiful, Doc. Beautiful. Nwabisa, can you read some questions or comments there?
Okay, Doc. We have one from Siyabonga Titi, which is very touching. He's saying, I'm one of those graduates he assisted. He picked me up in the streets of PE, clothed, fed, and educated me. When I asked him, how can I repay him? He said, do the same for someone else. This man and his wife have a heart of gold. That's from Siyabonga.
Oh, you see, that makes me very emotional. You see that boy, Siyabonga is more like a son to me. His parents were going through divorce, and his sister, I had met his sister in Queenstown, and he asked just for shelter. And he is more like a son. Unfortunately, we lost his mother a week or two ago through COVID, and we went through that very sad experience. But I spent a lot of time with him. I used to attend. He's a very brilliant guy. He used to collect awards at Lawson Brown. He's an MBA graduate also from Stellenbosch. He's a chartered accountant. I'm so proud of him. When I look at him, I feel fulfilled. I'm so glad he got a moment to actually share this thing. He makes me so emotional. He's my boy. Thank you so much.
Doc. Thank you. Any
We
other
have, yes, we have other questions as well from Siyabonga Babalaza. He says, Dr. Impempe, in your career, how do you deal with ignorance? What do you think about introducing consciousness as a subject in schools?
Kaupinde, that question?
He says, okay, so he's saying, in your career, how do you deal with ignorance? What do you think about introducing consciousness as a subject in schools?
Okay. Oh, that's a very political question, and it's a biting question. Actually, ignorance is a disease. You see, our company, Appeal Communications, deals with attacking myths and stereotypes because of the word ignorance would be central to that. A lot of black people grow up doing things a certain way. And then as Appeal Communications, our goal is actually to say, you guys send us to school. This is what we learned. For example, let's make a simple example. We learned that you used to pour sugar in an abscess. And as much as you didn't have explanation, then scientifically we know that if bacteria is so instead of chowing your own flesh, this is our busy. We've got an explanation from school. But we've got better things to do. So you cannot simply go and tell people to change. You need to know that one day you'll remove one brick. So it's a daily activity to do, to teach our black people, to teach our parents, to teach our senior citizens in Toba from school. That is what we learned. Instead of doing this thing this way, can we do it that way now? It's not an easy thing, but lessons, we should be very patient. We should know that it's not something that we can achieve within a day, because some people are very difficult to teach. Some people do not have open minds. And especially in the field that we're in, sexual and reproductive health, people have got answers for everything. Just look at COVID. People have got answers for COVID to an extent of seemingly having answers even more than people that were studied the whole thing. So it's not an easy thing, but we need to be patient. We need people who are schooled to know that you do not only study for yourself, you study to come back and actually, whatever you've learned, to teach the next person. And whoever, even if you get one person who catches the lesson. For example, I get happy when someone tells me that a woman ovulates once a month. I mean, our mothers used to go to Joburg to seeking pregnancy with the hope that I'm going to fall pregnant. They do not know that there's something called ovulation, and they may go on wrong dates and come back and think that they are failing to fall pregnant. And now we are here, we know that ovulation happens once a month in a woman, and we can calculate when it happens. Now we just give that information to the people, and they won't absorb it in one day. We repeatedly tell them until it sinks. That is our role.
And enye into gqirha kanye kanye kuloo nto leyo, you know, sometimes families would actually gang up against a woman, and they say akazali, you know, kuhanjwe kuyofunyanwa, you know, they say, okay, because you are unable to fall pregnant, then our brother must go and get another person, not knowing that about a third of reasons for infertility is actually men who are shooting blanks. You
exactly. Exactly, Dr. Fundi. And the painful thing about that, when you tell men that studies are very clear, research is very clear, a number of problems, and you know where the problems lie. The problem are sperms. The sperms that men produce are very problematic when it comes to fertility issues. When you tell a man that, Funding, you don't produce sperms, it's like you've actually frustrated that man.
Or his sperms zakho zizidalwa, they are disabled.
Yes.
The head is not strong enough to penetrate the egg.
Exactly. You know? It is not easy. It is so difficult to tell a black man that your sperms are faulty or your sperms cannot be able to make someone pregnant. They do not take that kindly because somehow men think they are everything when it comes to sexual and reproductive health. And you must know, that's one thing I told myself as Appeal Communications. I'm going to get insulted. I'm going to get pelted on, but I did leadership. And you cannot lead. It's not smooth to lead people, especially on things like this. It's a challenge that I accept. It's something, but eventually they will get to where I want. They will know what I'm trying to do. Sperms are a problem. And not only chasing the woman away, some may get a second or a third wife and whatever. And you find that they're also struggling to make even the second or third wife pregnant because the problem is sperm analysis.
Yes, exactly. Which is why when there is infertility in a couple, you know, the starting point is to investigate the man. And it's easiest
100%.
You start with doing sperm analysis. Uyixelele ichepha nasi ibhotile man kakuyoskomora pha ufake apha kule bhotile uyibuyise ke amadoda ke naloo nto leyo uskomora kwakuthiwa uphuma iinwele apha ezandleni xa uskomora.
But it's un-African. That is un-African. They find it difficult to go and masturbate and to produce sperms, but it is something we do routinely. And it begins there. We just need to examine the testes and then go and do semen analysis. And then it's very quick and easy than to investigate a woman for infertility. That is why we start with men.
Kakul. So anyway, Doc, and then there's also, you know, now I'm into the Appeal Communication thing. What motivated you? What stimulated you? What made you to say, I am going to have this company that focuses on communication in the healthcare space? You know, I'm going to demystify, you know, mistruths and all of those kind of things. Yeah, what motivated you?
I was fortunately, after doing my certificate with Manchester Business School, the Advanced Management Program, I was appointed by one of the insurance companies into their board. We had something called the GP Advisory Board. And when we attended one meeting in Cape Town, I met a sexologist there. You see, when we do introductions, I was listening to this guy, a sexologist. I had never seen a sexologist in my life, and then I was listening to this guy with interest. And then we fortunately had tea together, and we introduced each other properly. And then he invited me to a seminar that was in Durban, and I ignored that. I met him again in Johannesburg at a summer conference. He invited me again to a sexologist seminar in Durban, and he gave me a pamphlet. And one thing that actually made me interested in this now was that I'm seeing a lot of diabetics. And out of these diabetics, a lot of them, they struggle with erectile dysfunction, and you give all these oral agents.
Impempe ayisebenzi kakuhle.
Impempe azisebenzi kakuhle at all. Amadoda achama kwangoko, amadoda impempe ziyawa. And fortunately, I'm a very public person. I speak openly, and then they get to share these things with me. And then it would frustrate me if I don't solve their problem, because the managing diabetes means you must also take care of all the other things that come out of as complications. Then that is what generated interest in me to actually spend a bit of time and interest in sexual medicine. And then I had a stint at Men's Clinic International as a sessional doctor. I was doing 2 hours there. My main strategy to go there was just to see what is it that they are doing to try and address some of these things, because it's not only oral agents. I find that they were doing intravenous injection, but there are things that I was not happy with as a clinician, because deep in, I'm a very passionate clinician. If I deal with a patient, I know that I must deal with the cause. If you've got diabetes, I need to know your HbA1c. I must not only give you an erection. I must know that your sugar is well controlled. Exactly. If you've got premature ejaculation, it is not important to put you on the program only, but we should establish what is causing it. And then through Dr. Preeti that I met in Durban, is a sexologist. And also Professor Elna McIntosh is running a sexual health clinic in Joburg. They inspired me and they said, actually, we don't have a person in Eastern Cape. Why don't you invest a lot of energy in this thing and you become our pillar in the Eastern Cape? Then that is what actually fueled me. And my brain was actually boiling, because when I qualified with this MBA, I was asked one question. I was fortunately interviewed in Liverpool, and they asked me a question: what are you going to do for your country? Because qualifying with MBA in leadership, it means you must at least do something as something that is actually going to leave a serious impact. So I saw an opportunity, because MBA teaches you to think out of the box. So I saw this thing. I said, no, man, this is something that people fear. This is something that is a taboo in Black communities. But 7.5 million people in South Africa are affected and infected with HIV. A lot of people visit public clinics and private clinics with STIs, but nobody is spending time talking about sex. A lot of marriages are collapsing over sexual health issues. A lot of men are moving around thinking they're the only ones who've got erectile problems and premature ejaculation. Then a lot of women give derogatory names to men, and whatever, when they refer to the small penis and whatever. And with my mind now, those were strategic points. Very critical, Dr. Fundi. Very, very. But how do you begin to tell a man that? Because even at class that people would look at the size of the penis and say, well, I'll pay it, whatever. And there was a lot of bullying around his size, penis. And some of these things, they began to come back to me. But there's a lot of stuff around the. And also, there are quite common complications. As age 6, 7, you get a lot of paraphimosis in hospital and in private practice, where you have to reduce these things. But when I attend men's seminars, I ask them a simple question: because and then you find that they do not know. And so who's taking care of this thing? How do you pick up phimosis so that even before it becomes paraphimosis, as a father, you are aware? So I needed to actually spend time on those things, teaching men about manhood, teaching men about how to take care of Impempe, so it generated a lot of interest.
Nalamcimbi were 2-minute noodles. Funa ucidezele phambili lamcimbi ka start stop no press
stop start technique, because a lot of people used to know that only as the only method of actually addressing into ngoko, and I felt, no, man, I mean, we need to give people information, because this is becoming an insult. Everyone is called upeka noodles and whatever. Why? For how long will this go on? I-education yethu izawuthi ibe ne-impact nini ebantwini aba basifundisileyo. I
Yes.
felt like we were too educated and distant from the people who actually educated us. Basekulaa ndawo besibashiye kuyo. So it means i-value ye-education yethu ayifikeleli kwabantu, fanele ifikelele kuwo. And naxa sekufuneka ifikelele, so unayo opportunity, abakho ready to receive the information uza nayo, because banendlela abenza ngayo izinto which they always think is right. So that is what inspired me, because I wanted to encounter this resistance. I wanted to break the barrier, and I wanted to forcefully feed them information until it makes sense. Hence, I've got t-shirts that are written #5cm, because I wanted men to know that even a 5cm penis that is erect can fulfill the job and satisfy a woman. All you need to know is that the clitoris has got most of the nerves, and its G-spot is only 1.5 centimeters. Where is it? On the anterior vaginal wall. You don't only push the penis in and out, no, you direct the penis. Yes. Exactly. Imitshato emininzi ichitheka out of lack of knowledge. And the problem, the people who lack knowledge do not easily admit that they lack knowledge. So you need to forcefully give information until it sinks. The nice thing now is that women are so vocal and receptive. So they create a lot of pressure now. They hear these things and then they begin to say, communications and so on. So that is why I splash information across all my networks, because I want people to get information either accidentally or intentionally.
Bethetha ke abasemakhaya ephondweni. Xa umlambisi akazuthulela ngaphakathi.
Indlala wasanyamezele. And indlala Dr. Fundi yenza uchuku. There are hormones that we release during proper sex when you hit orgasm. So someone who's lacking orgasm, baba no chuku, because akho endorphins, akho oxytocins, akho prolactin, uhleli nje umuntu ujonge into yoba uzawulwa ngantoni namhlanje, uhleli engcwangu, kulula noqumba, ikhapla ekho happy, relationship isoloko uxoxa uchuku, because sexual life is frustrating. And the problem in black communities is that xa kubizwa nozakuzaku, mhlambi kukho indlala phaa ebhedini, akuzubekwa lo mcimbi wasebhedi lo bhuti uyandilambisa lo, okanye lo sisi uyandilambisa. Uzawubekwa everything else as a reason. Kanti i-core business is the one that is suffering, because umuntu ufuna uprotecta ego yakhe, ufuna uprotecta isidima sakhe. Hence you'll find that a person will divorce here and then divorce there and then divorce there. Akade ayiface into yoba yintoni problem. So we want people to be aware into yoba Appeal Communications acknowledges that ezi zinto zehla kubantu ngabantu, irrespective of your level of education, irrespective of your status in society. Sexual problems, they affect everyone. Akhona amadoda amahle nanemaqhina achama kwangoko, akhona amadoda ane-rectal problems, akhona amadoda ane-stress aphela umuntu angaperformi, fear of failure. And it is an effort to make a woman reach orgasm for every man. You need to know that it is an effort and it's a job description. So you need to plant a lot of strategies to make sure that you make a reach. Don't only rely. Kuko concept in terms of and men are phallocentric. We think the penis is everything. Penis is that is not the case. You can do everything. Seminars, pretend that you do not have the penis for 30 minutes. Ignore it, whether it's jumping or getting hot or standing and whatever, ignore it and just work on your woman as if, or on just to be relevant, work on your spouse or your partner. Yes, to make sure you fulfill the sexual, using all other senses, using tongue, using finger, listening, communicating, and looking. Then that we are getting someone. As a movement, we are getting someone. And a lot of people who never got orgasm, they'll get orgasm. And people think that if you've got 5 kids or 7 kids, maybe you are too hot in bed and whatever, and you can have as many kids as possible, and yet you've never had orgasm. And as you grow into knowledge, sexual knowledge, the more you enjoy what you do, because you know what you're doing, you know which zones to target, and even your partner communications become easy. So actually with knowledge, sex becomes fulfilling for not only you, but also for both of you as partners. That is the premise that we are moving on. And once we achieve that, we know that it's a very good retention strategy. People will stop moving from one relationship to another. Then it means we're impacting and cutting the HIV spreading chains and the STI chains. Because umuntu uzawutya esikhaftini sakabona man yonke le nto ndiyifuna ikhona apha, iclitoris ikhona apha, i-G-spot ikhona, i-glans penis nansi, and into ebalulekileyo qha yi-information into yoba how do I deal management of this thing.
Well, watch out for Otega, man. I don't even want to mess up any of the things that you've just said. You know, to have you every week telling them about these things, you know, through FM and also, you know, Mpumakapa TV.
Mpumakapa TV. In fact, looking at Umhlobo Wenene, the role there, I did that thing for 2.5 years, Dr. Fundi, silently. I used to do 5 minutes on a Saturday morning, and eventually I used to coach children on Saturday. There's a children's program on Saturday morning. I used to coach children, the 12 and 13-year-olds there. And then eventually I got to Ukanya Geza, and it's a program that I enjoy. And especially that the mandate that I was given was to focus on reproductive and sexual health. Then it made me invest more time on literature in that sphere. And I'm actually inspired, encouraged by people like you who listen to the program, and some other colleagues who actually keep calling and give me feedback and so on, because you cannot be an island. As a scholar, I rely on feedback, and I rely on people who are actually studying other things, because this is a very interesting field. It is something that has kept me growing.
Have you got any feedback from some of your clients, Doc? You know, mhlawumbe umama ekhaya bese ecinga ukuphuma okanye utata ekhaya bese ecinga uthatha omnye umuntu, abantu athi hey man, after siye pha kuwe hayi qhuma uthuli xa sidibene.
Kakhulu, Dr. Fundi, kakhulu. If I were to send you messages, a lot of people, not only through the radio, but also in physical seminars, a lot of people that we've interacted with, we have saved a lot of relationships. We have impacted a lot of marriages in various churches, in various congregations, through the radio, through our social networks, because a lot of people were actually living in frustration. And abanye abantu, shame, they admit it, they didn't know 1, 2, 3. Now that they know, then they started doing things differently. There were a lot of frustrated people. Baninzi abantu bebelamba, Dr. Fundi, abahlutayo because of the information that we have provided them. And also baninzi abantu who have been suffering in silence. Ngakumbi abantu abangotata abangavukelwayo, abantu abangotata abenza kwangoko, bachama kwangoko, abebezizithuko. Kodwa through listening, and ke ngoku umuntu abenaso isibindi sento yoba man ndiyiphakamele nokucacile into yoba if it affects 80% of men, then it means I'm not the only man. Into commonly iyaziwa ngabantu bonke.
Yegqirha, kulaa mcimbi wabantu mhlawumbi umuntu nabantwana bayi-8 kodwa zange ngafike kwi-orgasm, kakutsho how common is that? Andifuna nje abantu bakuthi bayazi uba it's a very common thing, but ndifuna undichazele wena uba this is what you are getting from literature. People
it's very, very common.
Who routinely, you know, get involved in this act, but they never get to ukufika pha emajukujukwini.
That is very common, Dr. Fundi. Very common. About 40% of women, 40% of women sparingly reach orgasm. Iyaphela mhlambe 6 months khange ayibone orgasm futhi ecwaka. 40%. Then out of that 40%, kube khona 10% that have never had orgasm at all in their life. So it's internationally, it's a well-known academic problem, and it's something that is affecting a lot of people to an extent. And if someone was to be hit by a person who knows how to do this thing, then they get mad. They get mad and get stuck to that person. Then kuphele uchitheka umtshato just because of this person finally got an orgasm. That is why ukwazi ubona umuntu ukuthiwa hayi le ndoda inento yonke nje imnika nento yonke lo mfazi njani ashiywe ngumuntu ongenzi into. that guy actually knows how to do it. It's as simple as that. Orgasm, 40% of women, they don't find it easy to get orgasm. Then 10% have never had it. Even irrespective of the number of not at all. I don't even want to go to squirting, because squirting is a bonus. Squirting is when people actually splash a bit of fluid from the skin's glands, which is on top of orgasm, which is something maybe people need to pray for, but it's something people should not trouble themselves. But all we need to do is to make an effort to at least invest time and effort to make our partners reach orgasm. Then squirting is a bonus. Otherwise, it's endemic. It's a very serious and common problem.
Kunzi, you know, yeah. So that's the work that Pure Communication is doing. Now, Doc, you know, we are in this pandemic, and there's so much misinformation, there's so much disinformation. There's a vacuum, because I would say, you know, I would like to say provincial health departments, national health, they have not really optimized, you know, public health education. I'm even talking about COVID-19. You know, there's so many myths, there's so many whatever. Apile Communication, what role are you guys playing in trying to help to, you know, to fill that vacuum with the right kind of messaging? Because it is now filled in by people by misinformation and disinformation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fundi. You see, the issue with myths and stereotypes, the information at darkness, it spreads very, very quickly. And as academics or as people who are actually in the field, especially in health, and I know because we tend to be overruled and overtaken by people abangazi health, but whatever they say counts. That is an issue. As Apile Communications, we're doing a lot of ground education through our social networks and through whatever platform we get. We always touch on COVID, because COVID did not only affect me, it has killed a lot of people, and it is still a serious challenge. At every point and opportunity where I get to talk about COVID, I try to empower as many people as I can. Especially now when you see videos that are circulating around, the conspiracy theories that the vaccine is made outside of the country, it's got 666, or it's got okanye abantu bathi ndizawuthi ngene ebhankini ndiphele ndibona into yoba i-pin number yam ithini and whatever, and then my money will be taken. There's a lot of information that is not coming from health professionals. And I agree with you. The Department of Health, the communications arm of the Department of Health is not doing justice to what is happening. Because, I mean, they are supposed to be flooding. They are supposed to be flooding every TV, every radio station, and every social network with the right information. They always react later to something that is happening after a mess has been. A lot of people have been saying, I'm not going to take vaccine because of 1, 2, 3. And had we done a proper job to give people information even before the vaccine comes, to prepare them and to give them the actual facts. For instance, my argument from the Apile arm is that a lot of people say they're not going to get the vaccine. They actually have BCG stamp here. They've got BCG. BCG was developed by 2 scientists in France. It's not a South African vaccine. And then I go on just to stick on facts, because science is very objective and it's about facts. And then I ask them, which vaccine has been produced in South Africa? Because even polio vaccine is a USA product. Chickenpox vaccine is an overseas product. So I asked, which vaccine has been produced in South Africa? The only role that South Africa has to do, which is not unique to COVID, is to make sure that the products that we get, they are the quality that was promised. They are safe, they are effective, and then we as health professionals are trained on how to give them. And also to educate people that every drug has got side effect. When we are giving a vaccine, irrespective of the name of the vaccine, you prepare a tray for emergency, because a person can have anaphylactic shock just like someone can react to penicillin. Not because the vaccine contains something else, but because the person has got allergy. And the only way you see allergy is when someone has been exposed to whatever drug that you've given.
Mm.
So now the way things are happening, if someone was to have anaphylactic shock due to COVID vaccine, people will say it's because it's COVID vaccine, as if anaphylactic shock is a new thing, which is why we need to talk. And then it's a pity that we are not government. We are private. We only do whatever we can in a limited fashion.
Yeah.
But I think government can do better in actually utilizing some of the resources that we have, or using us in some of these things, because we work with these things. For instance, I attended the vaccine training and so on. We trouble ourselves with latest information and give people information. For instance, if you tell someone, but you already have BCG, which is a French product, then they don't have an answer. Because if people wanted to kill us, they could have killed us long time ago. Because every South African child has got BCG right from day one of birth. So if they wanted to kill us, they should have killed us long time ago, because BCG is a French product.
It's a French product. In 1921, and in South Africa, it's been mandatory from 1973. Everybody who's been born after 1973 definitely has that, and every, even between 1921 and 1973, it's been there, but maybe, it was not pushed, to the extent that it is now. Doc, how has COVID-19 pandemic affected issues of intimacy and sexual health, just from what you are picking up? We are wrapping up, Doc. We need to finish in 9 minutes. So how have the clients that you are talking to, how have they been impacted? Remember, kaloku kukho umcimbi we-mask. At what point do you kiss? Don't you kiss? And also, so there's many complications. I just want to hear from your experience. What have you picked up?
Thank you very much, Dr. Fundi. The nice thing about that is that as Appeal Communications, in all the platforms, we've been equipping people that romance is a problem when it comes to COVID, because COVID spreads through respiratory droplets. Ihamba ngezincwe, ihamba ngamathe, ihamba ngothimla. Anything that comes from the mouth and nose can actually spread COVID. So it means people have got to do things not in the routine way. If for play, ayinafana nangela xesha bekungekho i-COVID. Ngoku kukhona i-COVID. The advantage is that umqolo uthanda uba sterile abebhek. That is why nogqirha xa bebhinqisana benximisana izinto bevela ngasemva, because noko umqolo uthanda ube sterile xa ucompetition nomphambili. So njengakwi-pregnancy kufuneka kubekho i-adjustment in terms of how we share umcimbi wesondo. At least ukuza ngasemva is much better than ukuhlangabezana ngempumlo. It minimizes the risk. Plus also ukwenza lento kuthiwa yi-risk assessment kuni nobabini as a couple, ujonga into yoba if iqabane lam liphangela kwi-essential services li-exposed, it means uyayazi into yoba every time ebuya une-potential into yoba angandi-infecta. So cleanliness and infection control, you make sure that you practice it. But when it comes to the actual sexual act, you need to make sure that if foreplay doesn't involve the exchange of saliva, as in kissing, also in this touching, touching and so on and so on. So you need to modify a number of things, but at least there must be preparation to make sure into omnye nomnye wet and ready for the act. Singabi ngathi kuzawuqhutywa i-dry sex. Noko kupreparishwana, but not the usual way. We cannot afford to kiss each other or touch each other romantically njengoba besenza before. Infection control, no sanitizer. But ungasanitizwa impempe because ke izophela isityabula xa sengena ngaphakathi egusheni.
There are a few comments, man. So I think in the last 5 minutes, I just want to hear those comments quickly. We won't be able to read all of them. The last question, Yako, before we close, will be: what would you like to see as what legacy would you like to leave up emhlabeni by the time uThixo esithi hayi ke nyana wam ndikuthumile ndakunika ixesha uba uwenze umsebenzi ngoku buya, and we don't know when that will happen. But wena as uDr. Tebelele, what kind of legacy would you like to leave? Ibuyicinga loo nto leyo abefundi imibuzo unwabisa.
Okay, Doc, we have a question from Ali Zwakashani. She's asking, what advice would you give to a person wanting to pursue medicine in this year, 2021, especially given the pandemic we are in?
Okay. A quick one, Doc.
I would say the person must go ahead. Medical schools, they used to open early, but there's a little bit of delay this year, but they are opening. And you just have to make sure that you have applied because the competition is quite tight. It's not easy to get to medical school because a lot of people are getting distinctions these days. I don't know, maybe it's easy to get distinctions these days, but I would still encourage people to go and study medicine. There's always a huge need for doctors. So they must go ahead and actually seek a place in the 10 medical schools that we have. Fortunately, there's a new one here next to me in PE now.
Yeah, or at least if abathatwanga, they do first year BSc, bazamu kuba and see if that can take them to second year medicine, you know. And if still things don't work out, but the BSc yabo and try again. So, you know, those are the options. Yes, and then another one, Nwamsa?
All right, we have a comment from Basil Tebelele Mhlungu saying, a wonderful gentleman there. He was also good at soccer too in our medical students team. Not sure in that.
Yes, that is Dr. Basil Tebelele Mhlungu. He's a private medical practitioner at Durban. You know, he's got a very big, thriving practice there, doing very well. It's good and nice to, whilst they were medical students together, but qualifier, they still support each other. And he said you were quite humorous when you were still at medical school.
Very much so, very much so. I used to play a lot of soccer, and thanks, BT. You know that guy in class. He came with BSc. He was from Rhodes already. So when it comes to microbiology and so on, he was swimming.
Yeah.
He was swimming. He was struggling, and he had no tough times. He's a nice gentleman, man of God. Is someone I appreciate. Thank you very much for the feedback. And there's a match that I think I won by myself against University of Natal Medical School. I scored a winning penalty there. So I used to play a good amount of soccer. If it was not for my knee injury, maybe I could be playing for PSL.
Okay, another one, Nwamisa.
Okay, we have one from Tolokazi Noxi saying, Dr. Tebelele for president. Singama isizwe kweli cala lempempe nikusheshe school. Okay.
Right, another one.
And then from Sivuyile Kamanda saying, my doctor, ingaske noba sele ebizwa kwezinye indawo angemki apha eDwesi.
KwaDwesi is one of the suburbs or townships in PE. It was built as a township after Amagagi, you know, so that's where his practice is. Yeah, so I mean,
no, I very much appreciate abantu base by Dr. Fundi, especially community as Dwesi. Those people, they own that practice, they look after that practice. Even if the Shea Festival, they always call us when there is a hustle or anything. I highly appreciate the community as a Dwesi and the surrounding areas and the people who utilize our services. So thank you very much, Lomuntu as a Dwesi. I won't let them down.
Yes. Nwamisa, any other one?
Another one from Sakele Ndabeni saying, I'm worried about guys who know nothing about reproductive health and sexuality. They're the one who like sleeping around. Madoda Sabelani.
I think it's just a comment. You know, there's a lot of ignorance amongst us as males on matters of reproductive health, and we think we've figured it all out, and we don't allow our partners, you know, especially female partners, to actually give input or give you a scorecard on your performance so that you can actually pull up your socks.
Actually, that's what we need, Dr. Fundi. When we wake up, you need to have a scorecard. Then so that hopefully that won't create mental pressure, because that can have a disadvantage also. As a fear of failure. But
performance anxiety.
Yes, performance anxiety. But if you communicate, it's a nice reminder. unowegazi xa ubuya uphangela kamnandi uyazi into yoba uyazipreparisha mentally and physically to fulfill laa nto ubufeyile kuyizona. Ingabi into embi nezawuqumbisa xa umntu engafikelelanga, because kwamaxesha odiniweyo when you do tired sex, you just do a quick thing and then you sleep, but ube uyazi into yoba you have put this one at a disadvantage.
Okay, another question.
We have again from Sakelen Dareni saying, please touch on sex and spirituality from a traditional perspective.
Was he talks in churches and other places, and I would like to know, irresistance, because those are conservative communities, but not for today. We will arrange another one at some other time where we will just focus on issues of spirituality and sexuality. All right.
That would be nice. Praise God.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a couple of compliments from Zola Luzipo saying, big up guys. And then Bilo saying much needed life skills. And the last one is similar to what Doc has asked.
Umpilo, is it Mpilo line? Is that the one? Yeah, that's the Deputy Public Protector who is a follower of our channel. So umanyelo na wadu wakhulu Mfundi. Uyaphilisa because let me think. Wonke noba ungupresident noba uyintoni.
Injalo Dr. Kamba ndidla ngothi uJustice Zondo kwafuna la commission yakhe ithatha ibreak nge11:15 ngolwesithathu. Ithi term yabo senge11:15 so that bazokwazi umamela ukhanya egqiyazana before basebenze kahle. No, I'm very grateful. That is very inspiring. Umanyelwa ngabantu abakulo level. It means whatever we're doing is much needed information, and it is something that was actually lacking at all levels. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, man. I think pendula lambuzo nje gqirha sivale, man. We have gone beyond the time that we wanted, but it's not the last time. Definitely, we need to find ways to collaborate, and from time to time, and make sure that we continue doing what we want to do in empowering Abantu Bethu. So the question was, what legacy?
To answer you very quickly.
Yeah.
To answer you very quickly, I said when I qualified with my MBA in leadership, I was asked a very nice question in UK, what are you going to do for your country? And I wanted, my answer was, I want to lead my people in their areas of weakness. And one area of weakness and challenge was the area of sexual and reproductive health. And fortunately, I got the God-prepared path in terms of radio and TV. So my legacy is to make sure that every Black couple, irrespective of...
Ngoku sesixubile kaloku because abanye Black badibene nezinye icolors yithi every South African
couple, they will now be able to talk freely about issues of sexual health and reproductive health, and also have a healthy, fulfilling sexual life, knowing intoba sex means the biological organ that is between the legs, and gender means how they interpret themselves, and then orientation means what kind of people are they interested in sexually. Then we will be able to understand a lot of issues as we parent in the 21st century. So I want people to be empowered in terms of sexual knowledge and reproductive health, so that we address a number of things that we did in the past, a number of people that suffered in the past. They can actually find comfort and healing in the information that we provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the 2 hours you've given us. As you were talking, and I'm thinking about Impempe, I'm thinking about Ikusheshe, it takes me back to my internship years by Mthatha General Hospital. I was having trained in Durban and coming to practice medicine because I had a bursary from Transkei as well. I needed to be reorientated in terms of Xhosa medical language, which is different from Zulu medical language and English. I mean, one of the things I remember there, if I had to talk to an old man who has got erectile dysfunction, I had to use different language. You can't, as a young man of 22, ask an old man, Ukuba, does your thing stand up? You say, tata zisakhonkotha izinja. That's the language that is respectful, that he knows exactly what you are asking, but you can't say as a young man, isavuka into yakho tata. That's disrespectful. And
That is the spirit of Ubuntu.
yes, and when it came
Thank
to
you so much.
you know, now, a long time ago, there were rondavels, like you said earlier. The mother sleeps on one side, and the father sleeps on that side of the rondavel. In the center, there is a fireplace, iziko. Now, if you are asking a mother or a woman, when last did she have a sexual intercourse? The question would be, ugqibele nini ukuwela iziko? All right. And when you ask like that, she knows exactly what you are asking and it's respectful. Yabo, you don't say, Mama, ugqibele nulalwa. That's very disrespectful. You know? And the thing there is that the father would sleep on the other side. The mother sleeps on the other side with the children. The father, if he wants service, he's gonna ask the mother to cross the fireplace to join him on this bed, this side. Hence, the question, ugqibele nini ukuwela iziko? On that note, thank you very much, Dr. Tebelele. Thank you to everybody who was watching. I hope you enjoyed it like I did. We had more than 10,000 people watching us on Facebook. I haven't checked how many on YouTube, but that just shows that you know, people are interested, you know, in you, doctor. You've made an impact in the work that you do, but now they also wanted to know who is this person. So it's not the last time we are collaborating, but for today, thank you very much. Thank you to Usis Tembi. Makaqhubekele nentuta yakhe. You know, it will inspire many people. I know divorce rate amongst medical doctors is quite high, and part of it, you know, amadoda ngoku ayifundile anatomy nephysiology, they are not applying it in the bedroom. So thank you very much, doctor, and thank you to everybody who was watching. We appreciate you, and we will have Dr. Tebelele at some other point in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fundi, and the Fundi channel. All the best, and thank you for what you do for South Africa. Well done, and continue doing the hard work, and continue doing good. The impact of what you do goes far, 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 far than you can imagine. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.